Once upon a time, a junk man had a dream. I want to build a spaceship, go to the moon, salvage all the junk that's there, sell it. So he put together a team, an ex-astronaut and a fuel expert. And they built a spaceship and they went to the moon. Who knows what they'll do next? Greetings everyone, Mike here with Sci-Fi and more, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to our Sci-Fi family. So, what do you get when you combine the basic plot and setup of the hard sci-fi 1950s excellence of Destination Moon, combine it with some of the more unique ideas from its competitor, Rocket Ship XM, add good doses of a couple of decades of sci-fi media and actual developments in real-life space exploration, and then add in both the current technology of the late 1970s, along with some down-home intuitiveness and unorthodox creativity. You get a forgotten classic, a real gem. 1979's Salvage, the pilot movie for the later Salvage 1 television series. I would like to thank one of our subscribers at David Booth 5608 for suggesting this one for our Subscriber Street segment. And this is a deep cut. Salvage 1 is an American science fiction television series that was produced by Bennett Cattleman Productions and Columbia Pictures Television that aired for 16 of the 20 episodes produced for ABC during 1979. The final 4 episodes of the series went unaired during the program's original broadcast and were finally aired for the first time years later on the Nostalgia Channel in the 1990s. The pilot film Salvage aired on January 20th, 1979 to high ratings. The movie starred Andy Griffith as junkyard owner Harry Broderick, Joel Higgins as Addison Skip Carmichael, and Trish Stewart as NASA fuel expert Melanie Mel Slozar. During the production of Salvage 1, science fiction author Isaac Asimov served as the show's scientific advisor. His contributions were only credited in the closing credits of some episodes after the pilot, and he mentioned in his autobiography, I, Asimov, that he advised on only a few of the episodes. The series follows salvage operator Harry Broderick, who buys and sells scrap, electronics, aircraft, and other equipment. In the pilot episode, Harry's grand scheme is to recover equipment left on the moon during the Apollo program missions, believing that the salvage value would make the venture completely worthwhile. Harry Broderick recruits a former astronaut named Skip Carmichael who left NASA due to his risky but innovative spaceflight theory. Along with Mel Slozar, a genius in fuel and explosives, currently working in pyrotechnics for the film industry, Mel has developed a powerful monopropellant, monohydrazine, capable of single stage to orbit and lunar missions. An FBI agent named Jack Klinger is sent to investigate Mel's purchase of explosive chemicals. As the team together build a space vehicle named the Vulture, which Skip and Mel effectively use to travel to the moon, salvage the equipment, and then return. They also continue on in the series with the group pursuing various money-making ventures conceived by Harry, such as towing an iceberg. Though the Vulture is seldom involved, despite its prominent mention in the opening titles. Having built a spaceship dubbed the Vulture, made from reclaimed salvage and former NASA parts, a cement mixer, a gasoline tanker trailer, and several surplus rocket engines bought at auction apparently when the space program was in a bit of a financial slump. all of which became the homemade spaceship. After the pilot episode, the Vulture was rarely used. One of its engines was destroyed in the second season premiere, and it was never used again in subsequent episodes. The quirky show landed on the schedule mid-year during the 1978-1979 season, and it actually got off to a great start. The episode pulled in decent ratings. The basic premise of the series is rather ridiculous and fun, but casting Andy Griffith in the lead role was a brilliant move because of his down-home charm helped viewers ignore some of the leaps in logic and gaps in the show's science, despite having Isaac Asimov on board as the science advisor for at least a few of the episodes. In fact, the main cast gelled quite well, and their chemistry helped keep the momentum moving forward. It didn't really seem like the basic premise could carry a weekly show, but they actually came up with some decent episodes, and the show could be quite fun when it was hitting on all cylinders, making it sort of a prototype MacGyver with a team of experts who have a talent of making something from nothing. Sadly, the show was a bit too quirky for 1970s primetime television, and disappeared shortly after its truncated second season. Interestingly, the show's executive producer was Harve Bennett, who had previously worked on The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, and The Invisible Man, and then would later go on to work in the Star Trek movie franchise, starting with The Wrath of Khan. But his credentials were not enough to keep this one going, and the show quickly faded into TV obscurity, with few people remembering the series even ever existed. But for those who want to seek it out, this show had its moments, and it was definitely fun to see Andy Griffith enjoying himself in a role very different than his time in Mayberry, and very different from his future run as Matlock. So, was Salvage 1 canceled too soon? I say most definitely. This show did okay in the ratings. In its first season, no less, despite stiff competition from WKRP in Cincinnati and Little House on the Prairie in the same hour on Mondays. And it received a second season renewal. But the network apparently lost faith in the show before its second year debuted and cut the episode order short. The season 2 premiere was shifted to Sundays at 7 p.m. and was then yanked from the schedule after the 2-part season premiere wrapped up, leaving the remaining 4 episodes unaired until the 1990s. Since then, the show, unfortunately, has been mostly forgotten. So, should Salvage 1 be rebooted? Probably not. It was a pretty interesting idea to begin with, and what made it rise above its limitations was the cast. If an equally good group of actors could be brought on board, maybe a reboot would work. But since the show was so obscure, even with Andy Griffith at the helm, it's highly unlikely any network would have an interest in bringing it back. One interesting fun fact about Salvage 1 is that Andy Griffith originally turned down the role because he thought it was your typical Saturday morning live-action TV show from the 70s, like Land of the Lost, or Arc 2, Space Academy, or Jason of Star Command. When he learned that it was a primetime series, he decided to take a chance with it. Perhaps the one thing people remember most about this show, Salvage 1, be it either the pilot episode or the series as a whole, was the ship, the Vulture. I mean, it's cobbled together but structurally sound design, well, mostly so, is what has endeared to the fans over the years. I mean, the main body is the main tank from a former Texaco tanker turned on end and with a large diaphragm fitted inside so that as the Vulture uses up its fuel, the diaphragm of the ship moves up and the lower part can be used as cargo storage. That's how they get all the salvaged Apollo gear off of the moon. The crew cabin was converted from a cement mixer. The three main engines and boosters are recycled and rebuilt 1950s era Agena missiles straight from military salvage yard, as are the smaller rocket engines used for both retro rockets and steering thrusters. The landing gear pads are nothing more than old tires. The external mirrors are recognizable as truck mirrors. The main motor control is a reworked automatic transmission gear shift. I mean, the Vulture was so ugly, it's beautiful. And yet, at the same time, the creative person in all of us is quietly saying to ourselves, you know, I could build that. I mean, they built a full-size scale mock-up for the movie. What's to stop anyone from building a real Vulture now, given how much salvaged space technology has improved since 1979? What's interesting is here in the real world, innovations like space salvage have become a reality, with private enterprises away from NASA, like the efforts of SpaceX, working out all of their own problems, issues, and necessary government interaction, and actually becoming reality in our time. Salvage 1 turned out to be rather prophetic in that sense. The Vulture spacecraft for the show was designed by Andrew Probert, who is known for his work in science fiction design, particularly in the Star Trek series, most notably the designs of the USS Enterprise for Star Trek The Motion Picture and the Enterprise D for Star Trek The Next Generation. After spending some time in the United States Navy, Probert studied at the Art College of Design in Pasadena, California. His first film TV work was on Glenn A. Larson's 1978 ABC miniseries, Battlestar Galactica, where he contributed to the design of the Cylon Centurions. Probert was recommended to Glenn A. Larson by Ralph McQuarrie, known for his visual effects work on the Star Wars trilogy, the original Battlestar Galactica TV series, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and Cocoon, for which he won an Academy Award for visual effects. But more on Ralph McQuarrie in another video. Salvage 1 is often remembered for its unique and imaginative premise within the science fiction genre. Some of its notable contributions include its innovative concept. By presenting the idea of a private salvager using a homemade spaceship to recover valuable materials from space, particularly focusing on the moon, it attempted to incorporate aspects of realistic engineering and scientific principles in the creation and operation of the Vulture spacecraft, reflecting a more plausible approach to space travel for its time. The show highlighted themes of resourcefulness, recycling, and the value of salvaging, which were less commonly explored themes in science fiction of the 1970s. And with the focus on an underdog character who is a common man and not an astronaut or government official, added a new dimension to the genre, helping make space exploration more relatable and underscored the idea that space is not just for the elite, but can be for anyone with determination and ingenuity, all while blending adventure and scientific curiosity. While Salvage 1 might not have had the same lasting impact as some larger franchises, it brought a refreshing and innovative storyline that earned its place in the science fiction legacy of the late 1970s. So, what was the fate of the Vulture prop? Well, through my research for this video, I could not find anything specific surrounding the details or current whereabouts of the original Vulture model from the show. Often props and models from older shows have varied fates. They may have been preserved in a private collection, they could have been disposed of, sold at auction, or even repurposed for other productions. Given the show's niche status, it's possible that the original model could be in a private collection or stored in an archive. If there's a dedicated community or fan base for Salvage 1 that might have more information regarding the model's current status, please drop a comment below. I think here there may be a few of us that would like to know the fate of that one. The closest that I got was to find that the Estes Model Rockets Company, famous for their launchable model rockets, created a prototype flying model of the fictional Vulture spaceship featured in the show. Unfortunately, the kit was never produced and never brought to market. With that said, if you are a fan of hero ships from movies and television, like I am, allow me to suggest a video out there on YouTube that I really enjoyed from our friend and subscriber Dan Monroe on his channel, Dan Monroe's Movies, Music, and Monsters, covering the history of Taylor's ship from the 1968 classic, Planet of the Apes. The link to Dan's channel and his video are down in the description. Salvage 1 was a unique show that revolved around the concept of a salvage team building a spaceship to retrieve valuable items from the moon. While it didn't become a groundbreaking classic, it did contribute to a fascinating niche within science fiction, and it had some impact on pop culture, particularly in the realm of inventive and resourceful uses of technology and spacecraft. Though there isn't a direct lineage of movies or shows that were explicitly inspired by Salvage 1, its themes of space salvage, do-it-yourself space travel, and the repurposing of technology can be seen echoed in later science fiction works such as Firefly, The Expanse, Wall-E, and the 2015 film The Martian, which has a significant emphasis on using ingenuity and available resources to solve problems in space. It resonates with the innovative spirit of Salvage 1. Probably the one that gets the closest to the spirit of Salvage 1 was the 2006 film The Astronaut Farmer, where an Air Force fighter pilot, an astronaut in training who reluctantly resigned from the space program, was discharged from the military before he could fulfill his dream of becoming a vital part of NASA. Having missed the opportunity to travel to space, he decides to build a working replica of the historic Mercury Atlas rocket and spacecraft in the barn on his secluded ranch in the fictional town of Story, Texas. It's clear that the concept of using creativity and engineering to explore space has continued to inspire science fiction, even if those works were not directly inspired by Salvage 1. The show remains a curious piece of television history that likely influenced the broader creative landscape to sci-fi to some degree. And there you have it, Cosmic Core. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed our retrospective on Salvage 1. And if you did, please be sure to hit like and share the video. And if you could, if you feel we earned it, please be sure to subscribe. It's one click for you, but it means the world to us. And if there's a topic you would like us to cover, drop it in our comments and we will feature it on our Subscriber Street segment. Until next time, everyone, have a great galactic day.